Hello, welcome to Walking with God. I'm Buck. One of the things that many people bring up when they're arguing against the validity of the Bible is they say that it doesn't mention dinosaurs. And if massive, important, powerful creatures like that, um, exist, then it would only make sense that the Bible might mention them. Now, while there is some validity to that, there's a lot of things in the world that don't exist. There's a lot of things in the world that exist that the Bible doesn't mention, just like there's a lot of things in the world that exist that history books don't mention. So the omission of something doesn't mean that the subject matter is wrong. However, having said that, a lot of people will be surprised to know that the Bible does indeed talk about dinosaurs. It doesn't use the word dinosaur because that wasn't invented until the 1800s when the large fossilized bones of dinosaurs were discovered. But thousands of years before that, in the book of Job, the Bible gives a very clear description of a dinosaur. It starts in Job chapter 40, verse 15. Look now at Behemoth, which I made along with you. He eats grass like an ox. See now, his strength is in his hips, and his power is in his stomach muscles. He moves his tail like a cedar. The sinews of his thighs are tightly knit. His bones are like beams of bronze, his ribs like bars of iron. He is the first of the ways of God. Only he who made him can bring near his sword. Surely the mountains yield food for him, and all the beasts of the field play there. He lies under the lotus tree in a covert of reeds and marsh. The lotus trees cover him with their shade. The willows by the brook surround him. Indeed, the river may rage, yet he is not disturbed. He is confident though the Jordan gushes into his mouth, though he takes it in his eyes, or one pierces his nose with a snare. So, this is a description of a massive, powerful creature that can drink massive amounts of water in the Jordan. It says he's confident the Jordan gushes into his mouth. His bones are like, his ribs are like iron, and his bones are strong. And it says that his tail moves like a cedar. Now, a lot of Bible commentaries say this could be an elephant or a hippopotamus, but anybody who knows anything about the tail of an elephant or a hippopotamus would never, ever, ever compare that with a cedar tree. A cedar tree is a very tall, very thick, strong tree. And when we look at the dinosaurs, we know that a lot of the large vegetarian dinosaurs that had these massive bodies had these long, powerful tails. And so I believe this is a clear description of a dinosaur. And leading up to this in the book of Job, God is saying, look at this ox, I made this. Look at this bird, I made this. Look at one creature after another, I made this. And they were all creatures that Job was familiar with. And God was saying anything marvelous or spectacular about each one of these creatures just reveals that God is even greater. But then he comes to the ultimate land creature, the behemoth. And he's saying, I made this. You're familiar with this creature. You've seen this with your own eyes. You know how big and powerful it is. And God's contrasting that with his own power to have created such a creature. Then when we go into chapter 41 of the book of Job, we have another description of a huge, massive, powerful creature called Leviathan. And anybody who is familiar with a lot of fictional writings or mythology would immediately identify what this verse is describing, this animal's being. It says, can you draw out Leviathan with a hook, or snare his tongue with a line which you lower? Can you put a reed through his nose, or pierce his jaw with a hook? Will he make many supplications to you? Will he speak softly to you? Will he make a covenant with you? Will you take him as a servant forever? Will you play with him as with a bird? Or will you leash him for your maidens? Will your companions make a banquet of him? Will they apportion him among the merchants? Can you fill his skin with harpoons or his head with fishing spears? Lay your hand on him, remember the battle, never do it again. Indeed, any hope of overcoming him is false. Shall one not be overwhelmed at the sight of him? No one is so fierce that he would dare stir him up. Who then is able to stand against me? Who has preceded me that I should pay them? Everything under heaven is mine. I will not conceal his limbs, his mighty power, or his graceful proportions. Who can remove his outer coat? Who can approach him with a double bridle? Who can open the doors of his face with his terrible teeth all around? His rows of scales are his pride, shut up tightly as with a seal. One is so near another that no air can come between them. They are joined one to another, they stick together and cannot be parted. His sneezings flash forth light, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. Out of his mouth go burning lights, sparks of fire shoot out. Smoke goes out of his nostrils, as from a boiling pot and burning rushes. His breath kindles coals, and a flame goes out of his mouth. Strength dwells in his neck, and sorrow dances before him. The folds of his flesh are joined together. They are firm on him and cannot be moved. His heart is as hard as stone, even as hard as the lower millstone. When he raises himself up, the mighty are afraid. Because of his crashings, they are beside themselves. Though the sword reaches him, it cannot avail. Nor does spear, dart, or javelin. He regards iron as straw, and bronze as rotten wood. The arrow cannot make him flee. Sling stones become stubble to him. Darts are regarded as straw. He laughs at the threat of javelins. His undersides are like sharp potsherds. He spreads pointed marks in the mire. He makes the deep boil like a pot. He makes the sea like a pot of ointment. He leaves a shining wake behind him. One would think the deep had white hair. On earth there is nothing like him, which is made without fear. He beholds every high thing. He is king over all the children of pride. So, reading this description of this massive, powerful creature that humans cannot capture, they can't harm it using, they can't catch it with hooks, they can't, put a spear through it, sling stones, javelins, spears, nothing can harm this creature. And its scales are so tight that air can't even pass through them. It breathes fire. This is a creature that every other creature on the face of the earth is terrified of. Now, what creature can we imagine matches that description? How about this one? Now, in this biblical account, it doesn't say anything about wings, but it is a very clear description of a literal fire-breathing dragon that Job was familiar with as a very real creature that existed at that time. And God is saying, as fearsome and mighty as Leviathan is, I'm more fearsome and more mighty because I created it. Now, obviously, dragons through history have faded into myth. But when we go back through time, we can look at nations like Japan and China and even England and other Asian nations where dragons were once believed to have really existed alongside man. And the Bible points to that as being true as well. Now, again, the word dinosaur didn't exist, but this creature would have been another form of dinosaur that had the ability to breathe fire. Now, while that may sound fictional, when we look at the bombardier beetle that still exists today, it can combine two different chemicals that form like a fiery acid. So it's not beyond belief, or even beyond precedent that a creature can have chemical reactions that can produce something. Why not fire? That would explain why all of these ancient cultures have legends that the ancient peoples believed these fire-breathing dragons really existed. Tell me what you think in the comments. Do you think the Bible is talking about a dinosaur in the form of Behemoth and a dragon in the form of Leviathan? Or do you have a different explanation? Or do you believe the Bible is just a bunch of mythology? Whatever you think, please comment. Please like and subscribe if you like this content. And you've been watching Walking with God. I'm Buck. The truth is out there, and God wants you to know the truth because the truth will set you free.